down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Oh man, I'm super excited today to be in the studio with Brian Nix. If you don't know about Brian Nix, it's okay. He's like the quiet thunder. He's been in real estate for a long time, and I've watched him from afar, from RIAs, and I've run into him too many times to count because he's constantly outmaneuvered me on several deals. So, and I was doing some research, and I see Brian all the time, and his name constantly pops up in my world. We kind of buy similar houses, and I'm writing a book on banking, and I'm like, obviously this guy has a lot of units. Obviously, he is getting bank funding from somewhere, or he's just a silver spoon. But we're going to find out right now on the Savvy Radio Show. Please, you can't hear me, but clap for Brian Nix. What's up, homie?
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. Look forward to visiting with you.
I'm only superstars are on the show, so let's just cover that. All right.
I'm honored.
No, but anyway, we're going to kind of go over through some questions, and we just want to know more about you. I think you're inspiring. You know, if you guys didn't know this, that Brian Nix does have a published book out with some other superstar investors. It's a great book, and we're going to get into that. And so he is a published author. He is a realtor. He is an investor. He does it for real. He does owner finances and contract for deeds and subject twos, and works with wholesalers. And I don't know, but I Googled his name up, and I saw a deal for sale for $14,000 in Del City, and I just forwarded it to two friends, Alex and Chris. If you're out there and they buy that, don't forget thanks to the Van Callenberg. Anyway, so let's get started. How long have you been in real estate?
Oh, I've been full-time for 9 years, and just kind of tell you a little bit about how I got started. So my wife now, we were high school sweethearts, and so we were dating in high school, and her parents were realtors. They were a realtor team. And they worked together seemingly on their own schedule and office from home, and so that appealed to me. I liked the flexibility they seemed to have. And so through my college years, I kind of had real estate in the back of my mind, but all I knew that real estate was you go buy a house, do the loan, give the mortgage, and that's real estate. I didn't realize all the opportunities that were there. So fast forward a few years, I had accepted a job in Tulsa. So my wife and I moved up there. We had one child at the time, and pregnant with our second. And one night, she had gone to bed, and I was on my recliner watching TV. It was about midnight, and there was this old fella came on in this infomercial. He had this, I'll never forget, he had this white button-up shirt on, these khaki slacks. His name was Carlton Sheets.
Cool.
And so I'm sitting there listening to his infomercial, just getting hooked. And of course, I'm the guy that's trying to outthink the room, and so he's got this program for $500 with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Well, I didn't have $500, but I could spot $500 for 30 days or 29 days. So that was my plan. Was I'm going to buy this, I'm going to gobble up all the info, and in 29 days I'm going to send this back.
Okay.
I'll let you guess whether or not it went back, but I kept the...
Did you read it for real?
Oh, I read it for real.
Okay, cool.
And at the time...
Most people just buy this stuff.
Well, I went through it. I mean, I milked it for everything it was, and at the time it was cassettes. Well, so I was driving a lot for that position I had taken up there.
What were you doing before real estate?
I was in sales. This particular job, I had a couple different sales jobs, but this particular one, I would travel around to different hospitals and surgery centers, and we'd service their instruments all over the eastern part of the state. So I got to pop those cassettes in, and I literally listened to them over and over and over again.
Okay, cool. This is cool.
But, and it comes with your guides that, you go in and you have these checklists while you evaluate these deals. So my wife and I, we spent hours and hours, looking for deals, finding deals, and we'd go in and we'd spend 2-3 hours in these houses trying to evaluate what our rehab costs were, down to the penny. We thought we could get it down to the penny. And so we wrote several offers. Cool. And fortunately for me, none of them they didn't get accepted, because what I didn't know at the time that I know now is what a real deal looks like. And so we tried to get them, and we never did, because there just was no margin in them.
Now, how'd you get your wife involved? That's a lot of complaints real estate investors say, that I wish my wife was involved. Was she a realtor, or was she in real estate before, or how'd she get her to get the bug too?
Well, she just was supportive. I mean, she had seen her parents do the realtor thing, and then she had a girlfriend from high school that had lived in Dallas and had flipped a couple houses and had a positive experience. So, I can't say that there was any convincing. She was pretty supportive from day one. Cool. So that wasn't an issue for me.
All right, so you got the course. So then what?
Well, we tried to buy these houses, and when I say these weren't good deals, I'm talking like if nothing went wrong, I may have made $4,000 or $5,000 on a $70,000 house. So
those are skinny.
Yeah, they're real skinny. So I was pretty fortunate that.
And you were doing those deals.
No, I tried.
Okay.
I wrote offers,
and no one would.
No, I just wasn't dealing with the right people, but I learned a lot. And
okay. So how'd you get the ball rolling?
Well, so I lived up there for a year, and then, Carlton Sheets started it off for me, and then I started reading every book I could get my hands on, and just getting as much book knowledge as I can, and I did that for about 3 years, and finally
Were you still putting in offers in during that time, or just learning?
No.
What was your goal? Like, you want to master it before you get going?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I wanted to know as much as I could know.
Be comfortable.
The first year, we were writing the offers, and then we moved back here and just kind of put the offers on the shelf, but I was still reading everything I could get a hold of. And anyway, I got a fella on the phone. I started pursuing houses again here locally, and a guy on the phone and was trying to work a deal with him, and he had told me about one of the local investor clubs. And that was really key to really getting things going.
And how long ago was this?
This would have been
9 years ago?
No, it's about 9 years ago.
Okay,
that's right.
So back to the first deal. So you got a guy on the phone. Oh, you went to the club. Okay, then what?
Well, he told me about the club. I went to the club and I met people and developed some relationships that really was key in really getting the ball going for me, because what these guys did for me was to kind of validate deals that I was looking at. They'd say, no, that's not a deal, or yes, this is a deal.
So you leverage them for help.
Yeah, that's right. And my first rehab deal that I did, it was two guys that they were busy and they couldn't get to it, and they said, hey, go check this house out, you should go do this deal. And that was the first rehab I did.
Were you scared, nervous?
I don't think I knew any better. I just went for it, because I'll tell you.
And this was a flip or a hold?
This was a flip.
Okay.
So at the time, we were 7 months pregnant with our third child, and I just got laid off. And
from the medical job?
Well, I had taken another position.
Sales job. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, but corporate America had decided they were done with me, which was fine, because I was looking to go full-time real estate, but my timing kind of got
pushed.
Yeah, that's right. I got pushed into it. So, at the time, this was our third child and a family to support, so it was sink or swim. And so
were your wife working?
No.
Dang, so you got pressure on you.
Yeah. So I just had to get after it.
So So you did this. You got this first rehab, and this was a fix and flip. Well, how big was it?
It was about 1,000 square feet over off of Northwest 30th and May here in Oklahoma City.
Nice area.
And at the time, coming out of corporate America, I had the W-2 income. I had a great credit score, and one of the major national banks were just giving money away pretty much. So kind of get into
pretty easy to get the money?
It was real easy. I had been given a credit card, basically. It was a line of credit that was enough to go and quote-unquote pay cash for this house. I just wrote a check for it, and then I went to this large bank and did a cash-out refi, the day after I bought it. And so they did an electronic appraisal. The house was nearly down to the studs on the inside. They way overloaned on it, but it was a no money.
Yeah, down. That is no money.
So I was able to pull my acquisition funds out and the rehab funds, just right after I bought it.
On your first deal?
On the first deal, yeah.
No wonder you're still doing it.
I didn't have any idea what I was doing, but it all worked out. And I made every mistake in the book.
Sure.
It took too long, chose the wrong contractor, personalized the house, and still made $3,000 or $4,000 on it, because my two buddies I had met said, hey, this is a deal. And even I couldn't screw it up.
So you only made $4,000?
$4,000. I call it a paid education. I should have made 15 or 20 on it. I made 4, but I learned a lot.
What do you think you went wrong? Like the contractors?
Yeah, I chose the wrong contractor for one. He was a one-man show. Should have taken 4 weeks. It took about 10. I just upgraded the appliances in this starter home that
unnecessary.
Just not nicer light fixtures, just wasted money. So,
but it's fun to spend money.
It's fun and it comes natural. Yes.
Okay, so now fast forward, so many deals you've done. Do you have an idea of how many deals you've done? Because I know you sell property too, right?
Well, yeah.
As a realtor, because you're a realtor.
I do have a real estate license. I don't do a whole lot of that.
Okay. My
motivation for getting my realtor's license in the beginning was just to have another tool in my belt. I can't say that the realtor license has really helped me in my investing business.
Okay.
But
that is a question I get all the time. Should I get my real estate license?
There's so many tools out there with Zillow and
find comps
things
now.
Like that. Yeah. You can find the data.
Okay.
You don't have to be on the MLS.
So you're full time now. You're killing it. You're running X amount of units. I mean, you can talk about this stuff if you want to. I know some people are humble about it. Well, let's just dive into the bank part of it. So you got that was a no money. Well, you got it on a HELOC, I guess, on your personal residence. You got that first property. Well, how are you borrowing? Okay, let's scratch that. How are you borrowing money now? I mean, you're doing a lot of investments deals. I know just within this last couple of months. I'm not a stalker, but I know I went and looked at this one deal. I knew you bought one from Luke, and then like you obviously funded that, so that wasn't too long ago. And then you funded another one, and you funded another one. Where are you getting your money now? How's that working for you now?
Well, I do have several houses that are funded with local banks. Most of my funding right now, though, is through private money. My idea is to get it through private money. I'm not real rate sensitive because I amortize them 10 years or less. So while I pay more in interest, it doesn't bother me a whole lot. But the idea is to get them paid off as quickly as I can. So
you're borrowing private money for 10 years and then trying to pay it back? Are you holding it all 10, or are they on balloons?
Some of them are on balloons. Some of them are straight 10-year AMs. But I'm looking to just pay them off as quick as I can. Now, I think what I'm going to do is go to a local bank and
refinance.
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you get into private money? Was that from Carlton Sheets too?
No, it wasn't.
Interesting. This has got to be good. Tell me.
So I told you about that first rehab deal I did over on Northwest 30th. Well,
2 real estate friends said, "Hey, do it."
That's it.
And I jumped in.
I nodded my head, said, "Okay," and off I went.
Okay.
You two guys know who you are, by the way. But
hopefully
anyway,
you're listening.
So during the rehab of that house, I had a homeowner from a house, like a block over, same neighborhood.
Okay.
We had put we buy houses sign in the yard. He called me up, said, "Hey, I've got this house. I want to sell it." So I went and looked at it, decided I wanted to do the deal. But when I looked online, he wasn't the owner of record. It was another lady. So he said, "Yeah, I'm doing a contract for deed with her." So long story short, I get on the phone with her, and I need to get a release from her. And she said, "Yeah, I'm financing it for this guy." So, she gave me the release, and we bought the deal. Well, so I did a third house in the same neighborhood, and I remembered this lady, so I called her up. I said, "Hey, I know you finance this guy. I've got this house I'm looking at over here. How about you finance it for me?" And she said, "Okay." And so that
was that her private lending, or was she always doing the contract for deeds?
Well, no, this was just a private lending deal. She wasn't a principal.
Was this her first private lending deal? I mean. Where you first approached her?
Well, it was the first investor type loan she did. The only other private lending she had done, it was for the guy that she owned the house and she was
contract for deeding it.
Yeah.
Okay, right on. So then you called her up and she was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, and so once I kind of figured that out, then the possibilities just seemed endless, and so
it is endless.
I just started talking to everybody I knew about private money, and she ended up funding several deals for me. And then any opportunity I got to pitch, do my elevator pitch on private money, I'd be talking it up. And
so that's your big source of funding now is private money.
Right.
This is perfect because Thursday we have a class with Pat Boynton over private money. So you make it sound so easy. Okay, let's go through some drama. What's been the biggest mistake you've learned, or what's the biggest no to do? Tell me about a real life experience that's changed you, helped you, molded you.
Well, as we go in this business, you just learn things day to day. Things you don't learn in the books. You just trial by fire.
Yeah.
One of the big things we talked about, the rehab. You learn what you can not fix and what you have to fix, what you have to do to a house and not necessarily have to do to a house. I mentioned that first deal and personalizing it by putting too expensive of appliances in or light fixtures, things like that. Well, what I came to realize was, on a starter home, those folks are just glad to have their own home. Maybe they're moving out of an apartment or something like that. So if it looks new and smells new, that's good enough.
Functions.
Yeah. So, I learned that because kind of a phrase that I coined coming out of that experience is that every dollar I unnecessarily spend is one less I get to keep.
True.
Right? And that just sounds like common sense, but as we're going through the project, sometimes, at least for myself, I just wasn't reminded of that.
Have you ever figured out how much money you would have saved? Did you ever go back and figure that out? So the appliances cost you an extra $300, and you could have put $10 light fixtures in, but you put $60 light fixtures in. Have you ever figured out that number?
I probably left about $15,000 on the table.
Dang. Would you put granite in there?
No, I didn't do that.
Did you build? Did you have an add-on? Yeah. All right. Well, get specific. What else? I mean, horror tenant story. I mean, I know your business model's changed. I know you have assistants. I know because I've called your office twice and I've talked to 2 different people. How'd you get to that point? How'd you get to hiring assistants when you failed somewhere there? Teach us something. You're a teacher. You wrote a book. Come on.
Well, we just kept acquiring properties,
Too fast, too slow?
Month. No, I wouldn't say too fast, probably just about right. But I got to the point to where if I had a vacancy that I advertised, I'd get 70 or 80 calls a day. And all I would, every time I'd try to sit down and do something, the phone would ring. It's a nice problem to have, but I just couldn't move forward.
Couldn't get nothing done.
So I had to bring somebody on to help with that. And But you just learn day by day. There's been tenant stories, of course. You do this long enough, you're going to have issues. The worst are the ones that stick around, the professional tenants that know the game, and they'll wait till the bitter end, plus 2 or 3 days. So you just deal with that as they come along.
All right. So what's your goals? What are you trying to accomplish in this? Have you reached those goals, or tell us more about that?
Well, I've reached preliminary goals, but I'm always looking to grow. To me, what excites me about real estate is the thrill of the hunt. I love buying houses. I like the money.
Outbidding me.
Yeah.
Stiff arming.
Right.
You punked that wholesaler. Hopefully he's listening.
Oh boy. Well, but yeah, I initially had a goal to buy 10 houses, and then to buy 25 houses, and
you're like 6. Where are you at now?
Right around 70.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Single families. I don't have any multifamily or anything.
And how long did it take you to get that far? The 9 years, I guess.
Well, 9 years, but it's grown very rapidly the last few years. So.
And then how long you been full time?
9 years.
Okay, so okay, cool.
Yeah, but I don't know how many I want. I was thinking about that the other day when I was prepping for this. 500 seems good.
I know we were talking off recording, and I understand that question. I don't understand that. There's a number. All right, let's talk about what do you look for in a property now. I know you have houses on the south side. You have houses all over the place. Mm-hmm. Is there any kind of goal or agenda there, or where is there a sweet spot? What are you looking for now? I know obviously you've grown and changed. When I started, I just would buy anything I can get my hands on. Now I avoid the south side. You're all on the south side. But I know you're creeping up into my little area on the east side, which is fine. There's so many east side properties, you can't buy them all. But so what are you looking for now? Where are you at now? What's your sweet spot? What do you like?
I do a little bit of everything. I started off, my first 2 deals ever were wholesale deals. I don't do a whole lot of wholesaling anymore. I like to hold. And then I moved into rehabbing, and I've done a lot of those. And I'm always looking for a good rehab. When I say rehab, fix it up and then sell it at retail.
Cosmetic, or just could be extensive?
It can be extensive.
Okay.
Most of them are cosmetic. But anyway, what I've gravitated towards the last couple of years are just a smaller entry-level homes that I can rent out or finance out. There's a couple of reasons for that. I learned from a couple of guys as I got in that the whole concept of getting these things paid off quick and buying the entry-level homes because the return's just so much higher on them.
And you mean by like $25,000, $50,000 or less? Or?
Yeah, $15,000 to $30,000, something like that. Very few of my rentals are I've paid more than $30,000 for. There are a few. Sure. But my idea is this: if I had $100,000, I'd rather go buy 5 $20,000 houses. Yep, than one $100,000 house.
Plus, you can make the payment worst case scenario.
Well, that's the thing.
That's how I think.
If I had to service the debt, I could service the debt on a $20,000 house a lot better than a $100,000 house, and for longer.
Now, I noticed I did see an email go out, man, it was only like a week ago exactly today, that you have a house in Del City. There's 3 bedroom, 1 bath. Why are you wholesaling that one, not rehabbing that one, not enough margin?
Well, I'll be honest with you. This has been...
It looks rough. The pictures look kind of rough.
Oh, it's rough. It's rough.
All right, but I was just curious.
It's ripe for a profit. Let's just say that.
It always is. Someone will profit.
To be honest with you, this has been probably the busiest 2.5 months of my career. We've bought a ton of houses. And Del City's not an area that I've been focusing on for the last several years. Okay. So I've got to cut something loose, and so that's the obvious one.
And there's margin at $15,000 for a property, and there's margin in there for you to make money.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Only in Oklahoma, not only in Oklahoma, but in real estate. All right. So any tips or tricks that you figured out so far in real estate? Well, I guess, did you answer that question? I was so excited. You didn't answer. Finish what you're looking for now. What's your sweet spot? Sorry.
Well, the entry-level homes, I buy a lot of lower-end houses. I gravitate toward those. But, if a nicer house comes along, I don't hold nicer houses anymore. But if
you
it's
flip them all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can fix it up and sell it, that's what I would do.
Okay, so east side now? Are you northeast side now, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Really, the only area that I don't invest in right now and hold would be Del City.
Okay. And so I saw outside on your truck, you got a little cool, classy sign, I buy houses, a 602 number, which is a landline number.
That's right.
It's a landline number.
602-6300.
Oh, everybody, 405. Let's say it again.
602-6300.
If you got a house for sale, Mr. Nix will buy it. What kind of marketing do you do? I mean, yellow letters, you do it all?
Do a little bit of everything. I do get a few deals now and then off the MLS. We've done signs. Every time we have a vacant house, we'll plop a "We Buy Houses" sign down in the yard. Postcards. Wholesalers have been big for me this year, particularly. I bought several houses off of wholesalers. I love working with wholesalers. Don't mind paying you at all, so give me a call.
Yeah,
602-6300.
I know, that's people always say, how do you get deals? I think they're falling from the sky. I don't know. I just can't buy them all. I don't have enough funds. I mean, I think wholesalers are great if you build a relationship with them, just like how we got tangled, which was really cool. This is a story that we're always going to tease each other about forever, but a wholesaler, actually, he was on episode 1. Luke called me on a property, but he called Brian first, and Brian could not have it. He didn't even get a key yet. Brian was already in his mind going to buy it because it was in his zone, and it was kind of out of my zone. It was in Oak Cliff area, which is kind of southeast side. But I was like, man, the numbers sound money. I mean, and Luke called me up. He's, hey, do you have an extra lockbox? I was like, yeah, I'll even put the lockbox on. The savvy landlord will roll over there for you. So I go over there. I'm like, this is a deal. I want this house. He's like, Brian already said yes. But I was like, I already looked at it. I went inside the property. I took 1,000 pictures. Anyway, long story short, Brian got it because he's cooler and he's much better looking than I am. And that's how we got it. But it's just cool that you can be in Oklahoma City and be a real estate investor. And for years, I've been doing this for 16 years. I barely run into you. And this it's like 6 months I've been running. I think real estate is just hot. I think the east side and southeast side is just dumping property. All right. So if you started all over again, what would you do differently?
I think I would have been more aggressive buying and holding. That's where my passion is.
And that's where the wealth is. Yeah,
that's right. And that's, I want to design a life. I love wholesaling, rehabbing, that's fine. But you stop doing it and you stop earning money. Mm-hmm. And so that the one thing that I've always come back to is buying and holding, to where you're earning money, day after day.
Residual.
That's right.
Cool. All right. I'm trying to think. This is going so fast. What kind of banks do you work with now? Do you work with any banks? So right now you got a deal on the table. How are you going to fund it? You already have private money lined out?
Yeah, I've developed relationships with several private lenders. So, and I love working with the private lenders because especially once you establish a reputation with them and you've made good on other deals, then the money's available and you can close. I mean, we've closed deals literally the next day. As opposed to banks. Now, if you're going to go the bank route, the only thing I would consider is these local banks, that they make the decisions in house, and you can get those things done dealing with a human.
Okay. So how many private lenders do you have lined out? I mean, and do they call you, or do you call them, or do you keep them on the hook a lot, or how do you communicate with them?
Yeah, I keep them on the hook. Typically, they'll start you off slow, and they've always got more money. Usually, rarely do you find out exactly.
I'm only going to loan you $50, but then all of a sudden you're borrowing $200.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
So I usually have, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 on the hook at any time that I can kind of do a round robin and say, hey, do you want this deal? If they say no, we'll go to the next one and the next one.
And then you just met these people over time?
Yeah, just over time.
Relationships?
And just talking. I constantly talk up real estate and the private money and tell them about my program and just try to keep it simple. Most people can understand because most people have gone to a bank and bought a house, usually their primary residence. So I tell them I'm going to treat them just like a bank. I don't cut any corners. I'll treat them just like a bank. And they can wrap their head around that and putting themselves in the position of the bank.
Has there ever been any kind of awkward situation where they said yes, they're going to loan to you, and they decide not to do that? Do you have a backup plan, a contingency plan, or?
Well, fortunately, there's not been any situations like that. If they're not interested in the deal, then they'll usually let me know really quick. Or if they've moved their money around and it's not liquid for the next few months, they'll let me know that right up front. There's not been any 11th hour horror stories with private money, which appeals to me.
Sure. Plus, you have backup. Okay, so you find a deal, then you run it. You call your list of private lenders, and then do they go look at the property? What do they require? They just trust you and who you are. But you said they didn't like that one deal, or? Well,
there's been few occasions where they have not wanted to loan, but most of the time, I would say 95% of the time, it's because of my reputation and my track record with them. They'll say yes, and. Quite honestly, I don't think they even go look at these houses.
Right. So how many have you borrowed from? Like, how many private loans do you have out, and how many have you exercised, you paid them back?
Well, I probably have anywhere from 10 to 15 different private lenders right now.
Cool.
80% of my portfolio is with private lenders. And but there's been a bunch I've paid back because I'm.
Oh, so what's the interest rate? What's an average? Or do they ask you, or you're up front? You kind of dictate the
That's
order?
Right. Yeah, I tell them what because these folks are true private lenders. I do have a couple hard money lenders that I've dealt with that will do longer term. They're more similar to an institutional lender. They have a program. You have to fit within their rules. My private lenders that I deal with, these are folks that just have some money sitting around
and they want to use
in
it
a savings account, in a CD, whatever it is. And I dictate the terms. I tell them what I'll pay, how I do it, and then I can customize the program. Some of them will go a full 10-year AM, and then some of them want a 3-year balloon, just with the option of calling it due if they need it.
And most of them are 10-year AMs. Mm-hmm. Are you making money on the 10-year?
Still cash flowing, yeah. So
And you're buying, I guess, obviously we're similar. You're buying 70% on the dollar. Is that what you're trying to buy, properties?
Yeah, usually. What I'm looking at, years ago, a guy taught me the whole idea of the 2% rule. You want to buy it, rehab it, and then be able to collect in a monthly payment 2% of what you have in the house. Well, nowadays, those deals are all over the place on the lower end homes. Those numbers don't work on the nicer homes.
That's right.
But I'm buying the lower end stuff, usually. So, but right now, I'm trying to get 3%. 3% is a home run. 2.5 is.
Okay, explain it to someone that doesn't understand what you're saying.
Okay, so let's say I go and buy a $20,000 house. Let's say I buy an $18,000 house.
Okay.
And it needs $2,000 in a make ready, paint, and a little cleanup. So I got $20,000 in this house.
Okay.
So
you borrow 20.
I borrowed 20. The 2% rule would say you want to get 2% of $20,000, which would be $400 per month in rent. Now I don't think that's good enough. I want closer
like
to 3%. I want 3%. So that's $600 a month, and those deals are out there.
Sure, that deal that we passed way over there off of Madison, up there off of Crenshaw, Kristenton or whatever.
Wrong state.
Yeah, whatever. But you're getting that, right? Did you rent that out pretty fast?
Yeah, I did. I rented that one Section 8. I think Northeast 28th is what you're referring to. So we paid 20
pissed me off because that's what I offered.
$20,000 and $1 for that
I
house.
even called that dude back, and I said, "Hey, I already sold it to somebody." I'm like, I looked it up on the county and I found that you paid 20. I'm like, why? You're better looking. I think because you can talk better. You know what to say.
Well,
because I'm like 20, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But
he told me who he was talking to, so I knew.
Oh, did you know it was me?
No.
Oh, shut your mouth. All right. So what? Okay, so the people are dying to know this. What's the interest rate? What do people like? If they want a higher interest rate, these private lenders, like, do you set? What interest rate do you say?
12%.
Wow. So they're like, damn, I'll loan you money. That seems so aggressive. So you're making money on borrowing 20%. I mean, borrowing $20,000 at 12%, and you're doing a 10-year AM.
Right.
Let me get my calculator here. Hold on.
So I want to make it a no-brainer for these folks.
Okay.
Because they're trusting you with their money. It's got to be appetizing for them. So it still works. You know, if you have an amortization schedule out there, you can punch in the numbers.
And I am. Keep going.
Do
keep
it
talking.
at $20,000 for 12% for 10 years or less. Some of mine are aimed at 7 years. And so versus...
And you just want to pay them off, or you just...
I just want to pay them off.
Okay. And as fast as possible. Let me see what the 10-year... So you got $20,000, interest rate 12% on a 10-year is $286 a month. With taxes, insurance, you're probably, what, $350?
Yeah.
So you're still cash flowing $300 a month on that one property we're talking about in Northeast 28.
Yeah, anywhere from $200 to $300.
So that's my ratio too.
Yeah, and so, you know, one thing I've learned from Dave Ramsey is 100% of foreclosures happen to people that have loans on houses, right? So my goal is to pay them off as quickly as I can and drive my foundation as deep as I can as quick as I can.
All right, so I have that. I have a bunch of them paid off, but I get eaten by taxes. So sometimes some philosophy is to be more leveraged so you pay less in taxes. You don't have that philosophy. You want to be debt-free as much as possible.
Yeah, I want to pay them off as quick as I can. That's my main criteria.
And then are you paying taxes every year? I mean, are you getting any kind of discounts or anything?
Killed in taxes.
All right, but you're still living the life, and you just want less stress because of debt-free. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah, that's right. But, you know, I'm not afraid of debt, good debt.
Sure.
I've paid enough stupid tax on bad debt.
I mean, I love Dave Ramsey too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to bash the debt. I mean, personally, I'm growing, and I've learned a thing called debt equity. You know, I'm not getting if I had that house paid off, that's $20,000 that I can buy 2 more houses or put $10,000 down somewhere else. So I'm growing as well. I mean, banks definitely. I mean, they must love you.
Well, we'll see.
Well, you don't need them. I mean, because you got private money.
I haven't needed them, but I'm gonna look at that and because I want to get some of these private lenders paid back, and so I can use their money again.
So do you drop I guess you have the title company drop a promissory note. Do you put any kind of the contingencies if you pay it off early? Is there any prepaid penalties or anything like that? You don't guarantee anything. Do you do appraisals every time or?
No, rarely do I do matter of fact, never do I do appraisals.
Man, I need to do private money.
Well, it's relationship based, and I'm very serious about that. I look after their money even more so than my own.
Sure.
You know, while I would never do this, there's no paperwork needed. I would make good on it no matter what because and
you're big enough now that there shouldn't be any problems.
Well, and I appreciate their trust in me. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, there's a note and there's a mortgage. They're listed on my insurance policy as loss payee. And so we do everything by the book, just like as if they were the bank. The bank wouldn't let you cut these corners, so I don't cut the corners with them.
Man, Brian, you're awesome. So you're in there every day grinding it out, and just sky's the limit. And you got this great formula going on. Is there anything in words of wisdom that someone that this is their first time, they really want to get into real estate, they're nervous, any kind of advice that you would give them?
Yeah, surround yourself with folks that are doing it in whatever market you're in. You know, we mentioned earlier, that was key for me. I don't know where I would have gone without meeting these guys that said, hey, this is a deal, you should go do it. And that gave me the confidence to go and do it. And at some point you do just have to do it. You know,
pull the trigger.
Window shopping and tire kicking doesn't get you anywhere. You just have to do it.
So great advice. That's I'm similar. Just do it. Like buy one deal, and lose and fail. I mean, you've lost money, right?
Yeah. Well, I've lost money before, but you know, it's
you're so humble.
It's I've been pretty blessed. You know, it's been a good ride and.
Okay, so let's talk about your wife too. How is she involved now? She's got taking care of 3 kids. You have?
We have 4 kids. 4? She homeschools them, so she's not involved.
We
in the
just
business.
pulled the trigger on that too this year. We're homeschooling.
Yeah, she's amazing, and you know
supportive.
She's very supportive. Anything I want to do, she follows, and she's a blessing.
No, but she's not involved in real estate at all.
No.
Hey, we bought another house today. That's why I go home. Hey, I got another house on the contract today.
Yeah, you know, I actually joked with her about that. when we were getting started, it was such a big deal to get a house, to sell a house or whatever. And
Emotional.
Emotional, exciting. And I still get excited by it, whenever I get a good deal under contract or whatever, and I'll tell her, and it's like she's come to expect it. I'm like, no, wait a minute, this is a big deal. It's exciting. But she's very supportive. But
that's cool, man.
It's a cool deal.
It's so cool that you're living your dream. You're living your life. I mean, being able to homeschool, my wife staying home as well is pretty remarkable. All right, so we're almost out of time, but you touch on something that you've said a couple times about contractors. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got the next landlord lunch coming up in next month, and the subject is hiring contractors. Do you have a full-time contractor now? Do you work with one guy? Do you work with a crew? How do you like to pay them? Let's kind of walk us through how you, because you used to do a lot of fix and flips, so you've obviously hired a lot of contractors.
Yeah, whenever I got started, I didn't know any contractors, and so what I was taught was to look at the newspapers when people still ran classified ads, and you'd see who was in there advertising their services. And my thought was, well, if they're in there advertising, that means they need work, right?
Right. Or they're good.
So I went through my deal, and I'd made a list of what I thought needed to be fixed, and I would leave copies of those over at the house, and I'd send them over there. And you'd have to call 20 to get 10 to go bid, because 10 of them won't show up, and then after 10 of them look at it, maybe 5 of them will actually submit a bid, and you just start going and looking through their bid. And what I did was I found the cheapest one out of the 5 and started negotiating with them. I went and checked their work, and that's how I found my first contractor. Now, ultimately, as I learned on the back end, I chose the wrong guy. He did good work, but he was just slow. But that guy, actually, I kept him with me for a long time, just doing small jobs. And during that process, the second guy that I would have chosen, I ended up putting him to work too on some jobs. So you just meet folks that way. I get calls regularly of folks looking for work. But when you find a good one, one thing that I've learned is if you find a good one, be willing to pay them a little bit more, keep them around, because in the end, it's definitely
stress-free. All right, so you have so many units, and then you have a crew. Do they cross-mix? Do you have that crew go out and do some handyman work for you on doing some minor repairs on some of your properties?
Yeah, so I've got several guys that I use. I don't have anybody on the payroll necessarily. They're all independent contractors.
That's how you do it.
But I just use them regularly, and so yeah, if it's some guys are not set up to do bigger projects, so I won't send them over there. But I've got guys that can do that, and then guys that do service calls, make readies, things like that.
Cool. All right. Well, that's exciting. All right, last and final thought. Single, multi-family, or commercial, do you ever see yourself leaving single-family world, or do you have any aspirations to do apartments or commercial buildings?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of interest in apartments, and I've been setting up on those for a while now. Have looked at some deals, just haven't found anything that really is the right one yet. But and commercial, yes, but for now, I think the next move would be the apartments for sure.
There's a book I read a couple months ago called Big Money and Small Apartments by Lance Edwards. Okay. It's actually like free or $1 ebook. It's pretty good primer to get ready for apartments. All right. Well, folks, Brian Nix, Oklahoma City realtor. Check out his book on Amazon. He has a webpage. He's got another phone number if you got a house for sale.
You call that 602-6300. And my email address, if you need to get a hold of me, is brian@nixrealestate.com. That's Brian with an I, and then Nix is Nix.
What a great guy. Willing to help, willing to teach, and we're excited that you're here on the show. And thanks, Brian, for taking out of your busy schedule to come kick it with me.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, man. Take care.